Hey, what's up? This is Laidback Luke, DJ and producer, Kung Fu athlete, and family guy. I mix and master most of my tracks on headphones, and some people call me crazy. Today, I'll show you my ways. I adopted producing on headphones when my sons were born. It was during the tremendous amount of touring that I did that I really figured out how I could maximize my use of headphones. I'm excited to share my ways with you today. Let's go in. Before I dive into headphones, let's talk about speakers first. Technically, it doesn't really matter on what speakers you're producing. I used to produce on these speakers. I've produced on these speakers as well. I've even produced on these speakers. I've also produced on these speakers, which I'll tell you more about later. But say your speaker sounds like this. And this is actually not a speaker, this is a heater. But say this is a crappy speaker and your music on there sounds like this. Then it's really important to reference your music on a crappy speaker like this with pro tracks that you know sound great everywhere. Let's have a listen. So because you're using the same output, you can kind of like tweak your track close to that professional track. But let's talk about these speakers. The very tiny IK multimedia iLoud speakers, monitor speakers. They are super tiny and they sit on my desk really well. And what I love about these little monitors is that, well, they're cheap, first of all, but the sound that comes out of here is actually really flat. And what that means, I'll tell you later. But what I cannot stand from monitor speakers in general is that there's a sweet spot. Say you have your monitor set up like this, nicely angled towards you. You are sitting in the sweet spot. The sweet spot is right here. Now, when you're mastering, the sound changes. The sweet spot is still here. Or you move your head this way, and dealing with all these subtle frequencies, this can get very confusing and very frustrating. And so in a pair of headphones, you are always in the sweet spot. It doesn't matter if you move here or move there, or if you turn your head around, you're always right there where it happens. I used to produce with these, but this gets very tricky. I figured if everyone's listening to their music from their favorite streaming platform on these, maybe my music should sound the best on these. But when mixing down, you need a certain separation of frequencies, and what that exactly is, I'll tell you right now. But before I take you into Ableton to show you, let's talk about Show Me Love. We released the last official Show Me Love remixes, which got released the last few weeks. The Stickman. The amazing Who remix. And Vintage Culture. You've got to show me love. Make sure to check them out through the link in the description below. Also, shout out to the winner of the official remix contest. Mike Props did such an amazing job, and look at Jaws and I loving this during our live stream together. We'll be releasing Mike Props remix very soon. Make sure to stay tuned. And now, without further ado, separation of frequencies, which I'll show you in Ableton right now. In your EQ, if you would make a peak like this, in a good system, you would hear this transition very seamlessly. If that's not the case on your system or on your headphones, you might be dealing with a system or headphones that's not very much HD. Let's have a listen how this sounds on my track. So we you have the low peak here, it sounds terrible. Heavy bass there. But this right now on my HD600s sounds very seamless. And so now I mix down in these, the Sennheiser HD600. Going back and forth with the EQ in Ableton on these sounds really good, really smooth. Yeah, they're named HD600, but literally the sound sounds as if you're watching something in HD. It especially helps when you're producing on low volume on these and you can still hear all the frequencies precisely. And we're right here, we arrived at the core of this vlog. So what I typically say is when I produce at living room volume. Mind you, I've produced at high volume for a lot of years, but it never worked out. At a certain point your ears get fatigued, and even then when you lower the volume after, you can't like really tell anymore. Your ears are tired from all that blasting. And so to prevent that, to prevent from you blasting your headphones, here's a little hack I have. Whenever I produce on my living room volume and I have the tendency to turn it up, instead of turning it up, I'll turn it down just a little bit. And then after a half an hour or 15 minutes, when my ears have adjusted again and I want to start turning it up, instead of turning it up, I'll turn it a little bit down again, and down again, and down again. And I'll keep on varying the volume as I go, up until the point that I can't turn it down anymore. And so I'll turn up the volume after. And this helps, and this is what you want, keeping the ears fresh. I'm just grabbing these again because at the end of your mastering cycle, it is actually good to grab your in-ears again or your favorite pair of headphones and listen to your track on these. Okay, back on the in-ears just to check my track outside. It's also nice to just change environment for a moment. But you can also take out your in-ears and just check your track on your iPhone speakers just to see where everything is sitting right now. That sounds quite good. Let's go and step into the car for a moment. Oh yeah, here we go. The car test, probably one of the most important areas where I get to test my tracks. And it makes sense because a lot of people listen to tracks in their car, right? And so of course you gotta have a decent system. I have no clue what's in here exactly, but all I do know is that all the frequencies sit properly. There's a heavy sub and bass presence here. There's nice crispy and clean high end in this car as well. And all I know is that if it sounds good in here, it sounds good pretty much everywhere. And just in case you're wondering what track that is you keep on hearing in the background, that's my unapologetic techno alias called Dark Channel. Actually, the track came out today. I'm super excited about it. Make sure you follow dark.channel on Instagram. I really poured my heart into it. Very different than my EDM stuff, but going back to my end of the 90s techno roots. And really quick, Dark Channel's debut EP is called Number One and is out today, and I'm releasing it myself through Mixmash Records. This EP includes unapologetic techno, and maybe you're into techno or absolutely not. I'd still love to read your opinions in the comments below, so let me know. Alright, back to the vlog. You would think it would be really nice to have juicy sounding speakers, right? But what's most important in producing is a flat sound. An honest sound. I'll take you back to when I was producing with the Swedish House Mafia. They just bought incredibly big and amazing monitor speakers. We programmed a kick drum and a hi-hat, literally just a kick drum and a hi-hat, and on these speakers it sounded like this. And as a test, we went out to Sebastian Ingrosso's car and put that same kick drum and hi-hat on in his car, and then it sounded like this. When you're producing music, it's important to have the most honest signal you can get. And with these headphones and with a bunch of other headphones, to achieve a signal like that, the Sonarworks reference plugin helps. Okay, so I'll just put it on my master here. And so as you can see, I already have it set for the Sennheiser HD 600 average. When you drop this down, there's a ton of headphones that you can actually load in, tons of brands, tons of headphones here, but I've searched mine, and apparently this is the signal that the Sonarworks needs to adjust for my signal to become flat. And what it does, you can see over here, it actually takes down the signal minus 12 dB, so you can never crank this out really loud. But in doing so, it can add this amount of bass frequencies the signal actually needs to become more flat. So let's have a listen to how this sounds with and without. Okay, so here's without. And let's do that same piece again, but with the reference plugin on. As you can hear, the volume is much lower now, but you can hear a lot more bass frequencies. And interestingly enough, I know the low end in the car is similar to the low end of these headphones when run through the Sonarworks reference plugin. Without that plugin, I'd probably get the low end and the sub frequencies all wrong in the car. And so I'm happy I really get to zoom in on that using that plugin. But of course, there's always the probability to reference your track. Here's my most common used reference track. It's Vivid 1000 Degrees that came out on Mix Mash Bold. The frequencies in this track are incredible, and obviously it's a very different genre than this techno track of mine over here. But in here as well, with the Sonarworks reference plugin activated, we can reference and go back and forth and hear and check how our bass frequencies sit with my reference track. So this is the reference track. Tons of bass here. Okay, let's see how it compares with my track. You can go back and forth like this. And then you could reference without the plugin as well. So let's just turn this off now to hear how they compare to each other in the normal realm. So the Sonarworks reference plugin has really been working for me. I kind of always aim it right when I slap that plugin, just for comparison at the last moment. And so to recap, make sure you don't produce on a too loud of a level on headphones, and make sure to keep on varying the volumes. Make sure you always reference your track with pro tracks that you know sound good everywhere, and make sure you test that out on different systems as well. And of course, these Sennheiser HD 600s are quite expensive. But here's the good news. In the Sonarworks reference plugin, you see this whole list of headphones that are cheaper than the Sennheisers, from cheap to really expensive. And from all of these, the plugin makes sure the signal will always sound flat and honest, and that's what you want. Cheaper headphones possibly that will give the same flat signal as I get in my Sennheiser headphones. And lastly, to recap, make sure you give your ears a little bit of rest after a half hour of producing, after an hour of producing, maximum of 2 hours of producing. Step away from your track, step away from the studio, Go do something else, give your ears a rest. And you'll see after you come back and you put on your headphones again, you'll hear exactly what was wrong with your track and what needs to be tweaked straight away. What is your favorite pair of headphones? I am curious to read your thoughts and your thoughts on my ways as well. And please remember, my way isn't the only way, it's just a recommendation. If you like this vlog, make sure to hit me with that thumbs up and subscribe right now, subscribe. Do not forget. I'm excited to catch you back here for the next one. Until then, L's up, rave safely, and salute.